Forget flying cars and robot butlers. We're about to take a journey into the past's vision of the future. And let me tell you, it is anything but sterile and clean. Welcome to the Vernacular Vault. Today, we're decoding what people 600 years ago thought the end of the world would actually look like. So, let me just ask you, when you think of the future, what pops into your head? High-tech gadgets, space travel. Well, for someone living in 14th century England, the future looked, well, a whole lot different.
See, their future wasn't about progress. It was about the apocalypse, a really visceral, terrifying, and divinely ordered final battle. This carving you're looking at from North Cathedral, it's not just religious art, it's basically a weather forecast for the end times. It shows angels in a brutal, sword-swinging war with demonic beasts. This was their endgame. But here's the key to understanding all of this. These visions weren't just about some distant, fiery conclusion. No, they were a direct reflection of the world these people were living in. A world that, to them, felt like it was already falling apart.
So to really get their vision of the future, we have to understand their chaotic present. And when I say chaotic, I mean it.
The late 14th century in England was just slammed by wave after wave of crisis. You had the Black Death wiping out a massive chunk of the population. Then the Peasants' Revolt completely flipped the social order on its head. A king was overthrown. And all of this was happening during a century-long war with France. When your world is that unstable, the end of the world doesn't seem like a fantasy. It feels like you're already living in it.
For the people living through all this trauma, the biblical story of the apocalypse wasn't just some horror story. It was a framework. It gave their suffering a purpose, a divine meaning, and maybe most important of all, it promised that in the end, there would be justice.
So how can we really get inside their heads and see the apocalypse through their eyes? Well, lucky for us, historians have an incredible piece of evidence, a stunningly illustrated book known as The Westminster Apocalypse. Now, this was not some cheap booklet you'd pick up at a market. The Westminster Apocalypse was a high-end, luxury item. It was made for the rich and powerful, the aristocrats and nobles of London. It took the original biblical text, added some commentary, and then, this is the crucial part, it used these incredible images that weren't just decorations. They were a deliberate, tailored interpretation of the end times.
And this kind of busts a common myth. We often hear that pictures in medieval books were just books for the illiterate. But in this case, it's the total opposite. These images were made for a highly literate elite audience. The pictures help them understand really complex theology, meditate on their faith, and, this is key, see their own world and their own values reflected in this huge cosmic drama. Okay, get this, because it's a perfect example. In the Bible, the beast of the apocalypse is this symbolic seven-headed monster. But in the Westminster manuscript, the artists gave it a total 14th century makeover. They dressed the forces of evil in the latest courtly fashion. They put the Antichrist on a throne, making him look just like a corrupt king. They weren't just illustrating an old text, they were updating it, mapping their own political world right onto the end of time. So, these images are basically coded messages, telling us exactly what the medieval elite valued and what they were terrified of. And we're about to decode some of the biggest ones. If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive into history's hidden stories, do me a favor and take a second to like this explainer and subscribe to the Vernacular Vault. That way, you won't miss what we uncover next. All right, let's get back to cracking the code.
Okay, so let's start unpacking the specific messages hidden inside these unbelievable images. This is where we really see the medieval world staring back at us from the pages of Armageddon.
Take the war in heaven. The manuscript doesn't show it as some abstract spiritual thing. No, it's shown as a chivalric battle. The angels are wearing the full plate armor of English knights. In some pictures, St. Michael's shield even has the cross of St. George on it. The message is crystal clear. The ultimate victory of good over evil is being framed as an English victory, a triumph of chivalry.
And it goes so much deeper. The whole apocalypse is reimagined through the lens of aristocratic life. Everybody, from saints to demons, is wearing the trendiest court fashions. The armies of hell, they're structured like a feudal kingdom with a clear hierarchy. This points to a huge anxiety at the time. After the Black Death, the old social order was crumbling, and the elite were terrified of social mobility. Even the Last Judgment itself looks like a proceeding in a medieval court of law.
This quote from one of the sources just nails it. The medieval elite believed their rigid social structure, king on top, then nobles, then peasants, was literally ordered by God. So how did they imagine hell? As the ultimate social disruption.
The chaos of the beasts was this terrifying vision of their perfect, God-given order being turned completely upside down.
And all these theological figures got mapped onto very real-world fears. The Antichrist wasn't just some boogeyman from a book. He became a symbol for the things threatening their power right then and there. Religious dissenters, like the Lollards, who were questioning the church's authority, and political rebels committing treason against the king. The apocalypse became a powerful warning. Don't you dare rock the boat.
Okay, so we've seen how the medieval world projected its own anxieties onto its vision of the future. Now, let's turn that mirror around and point it right at ourselves.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. If their future was a reflection of their present-day fears, plague, social collapse, corrupt leaders, then what do our visions of the future say about us? I mean, think about our popular stories: rogue AI, climate dystopias, zombie apocalypses. What are the anxieties that are hiding behind those narratives?
You know, the process is exactly the same, whether it's the 14th century or today. First, a society identifies its deepest anxieties. For them, it was plague and social breakdown. Then they project those fears onto a big future narrative. For them, the apocalypse. And that story reinforces their core values: divine order, chivalry. Now look at us. Our anxieties might be runaway technology or climate change. We project them onto sci-fi dystopias. The real question is, what values are our stories trying to reinforce?
And that leads us to this final thought. Just imagine a historian 600 years from now digging through the ruins of our digital world. When they look at our movies, our books, our predictions about what was to come, what conclusions will they draw about our hopes, our fears, and the world we were really living in? What will our future say about our present?